Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Halfway Through the Heat, the world's most essential trans-Pacific wrestling podcast. Coming to you from the Halfway Through the Heat halfway house in scenic North Central Connecticut. I am Tom. With me from Tokyo, Japan is Joe. This week we are going to rehash the WWE's most recent pay-per-view, what they got right, what they got wrong. We're going to talk about the possibility of a mysterious new promotion on the horizon. We're going to look at what Global Force Wrestling has done with its first crop of champions. And we're going to talk about the just released PWI 500. Not all 500. We're just going to look at the top of it. But we're going to start things off as we always do by shunning the negative and bringing in the good vibes and saying something positive about Raw. Joe, this actually wasn't that hard to do this week.
No, it was surprisingly easy to do because Raw was really good this week. Um, there was a lot of good points, and even the low points were not horribly low, but you know the good points far outshine the bad points this week, which is recently pretty rare for Raw.
Yeah, what was the highlight of Raw for you?
Um, wow, I think like that the whole tournament they did was really good. I think almost all of those matches were really good.
Yeah, I
So.
agree.
And like any of them, pick any of those matches, and it was probably like on any other week of Raw would have been a high point. But there were five of them. Even the four-way match, which I usually don't like, was good.
Yeah, I think my positive thing about Raw was just seeing how well Cesaro did and how into him the crowd was. That was just great. He had a fantastic showing and was really exciting. Although, I mean, I liked basically everything on Raw. There were a couple points that were a little, but I mean, it's 3 hours. Not everything's going to be great. Um, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought that this was, as we talked about, and probably will talk about. I thought this was actually sort of a better 3 hour production than the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view the night before.
True, though. Hell in a Cell is a legit 3 hours, whereas Raw is like 2 hours with an hour of commercials.
True.
So,
That's a good point.
um, yeah, but I tend to agree. I actually probably enjoyed more of the matches in an overall sense in on the Raw than I did on the pay-per-view. And I didn't think the pay-per-view was bad or anything. I just think it was kind of like, mediocre.
C plus, B minus.
Wow, you're more generous than I am. I would have said like C minus.
I liked the return of Alberto Del Rio. That was exciting to see. And I liked the clean finishes. A lot of the matches just had absolutely clean, straight up finishes, which are sort of all too rare, at least in major matches. When was the last time we saw John Cena lose clean? I think it was May. And
He
that might be the last
he
time we saw John Cena
lost to
lose.
Kevin Owens.
That's right. And I think the New Day beating the Dudleys without, outside help of Xavier Woods was good. And I liked that Seth Rollins beat Kane clean. I mean, I liked that aspect of it anyway. The matches themselves were, it was sort of all right. I did like the Roman Reigns Bray Wyatt match. That might have been my favorite match. Oh, and actually the opening match, the 6-man tag, was the best one. That wasn't actually on the pay-per-view. That was the most fun. But the Reigns Wyatt match was actually pretty good. A lot of sort of kind of edgy spots. I don't care about their feud. I thought that was sort of weird and pointless, but I like that match.
Yeah, that was a good match. I think if someone wants to go back and listen to our last episode, I'm pretty sure that we got 100% correct rate on who was going to win each match. Um, there weren't a lot of surprises in terms of the winners, even for the John Cena match where we didn't guess that Alberto Del Rio was coming back. We we did predict that the challenger, whoever it was going to win. So
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that we got a 100% guess rate on who was going to win. So that kind of is actually probably not a good thing.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
It
If
means
we
that
weren't.
like the booking was incredibly predictable.
The only thing we were worried about was some kind of weird swerve ending for the Undertaker Lesnar match.
Yeah, well, like the thing with that is like even that, um, I didn't really think was gonna happen. It was just kind of like, um, you know, here is what will probably happen, but um, in the event that WWE becomes WWE for a minute, this probably will happen. Brothers of Destruction reunion, but even that kind of justified because on Raw, pretty much that's what we saw. Kane
Yeah,
coming out to fight the
yeah. That I mean,
Wyatts.
it did come out. Yeah, I was sort of disappointed. I thought they were gonna. I was hoped they were gonna tease the Undertaker is kidnapped angle a little bit longer than they did. My hope was that they were recruiting him as a center for their basketball team.
See, it would have been better if they did a thing where like they didn't have the Wyatts come out at all. They just had they kept showing like a video of the Wyatts with like an Undertaker tied up in a chair and they're like dumping buckets of water on him or something.
That would have been better, yeah, that they had drawn it out, and that way, like also the Undertaker wouldn't have had to wrestle.
Yeah, so like eventually, and then like the thing what it would be was that eventually like the Undertaker would be part of the Wyatt family.
Yep,
That would
that would
be
have been
better.
better.
But I think it's just going to be like a the Wyatt family versus um 1998 or something. I don't know what their what the idea of it is.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either. But overall, it wasn't a terrible pay per view. Oh, the Divas match wasn't that bad, but it was like this. Nikki Bella basically
Oh,
carried Charlotte.
I want you should talk about your delightful Tumblr activity on the blog because when you
Yeah,
posted about this match, you got the most hilarious responses that I honestly thought they were jokes. I thought no one could seriously be saying this, but they were. So
yeah.
please
So
please talk about that.
I during the match, like anyone who saw the match, I think, and was is not like a Charlotte super fan. Like Nikki just had a better match. She just kind of carried it. She was a better wrestler in that match. And in general, like Nikki has had a much better year than Charlotte. Nikki's improved a lot as a wrestler and doesn't get credit from people who sort of hate the Bellas for whatever reason and who want to get on the NXT train. So I said, on the Tumblr, closetofanxiety.tumblr.com, which is all wrestling all the time. I said, this match just sort of proves that Nikki's a better wrestler than Charlotte, despite the sort of NXT invasion angle that is convincing people otherwise. And my God, I stirred up a hornet's nest.
Yeah, you that was like was that like your most and quickest commented post or shared post ever? Because like
Yeah, it was like instantaneous. People were just furious. Um, and some of it was just like people like they liked Charlotte better. I'm not, you can't argue that. I guess whatever. If de gustibus non est disputandum, as the Latin said. But other people had like these kind of weird arguments that were like, so one guy wrote in, or woman or somebody, I don't know, it's Tumblr, who knows, wrote, to put things in perspective, Nikki's been wrestling since 2007. Charlotte's been wrestling since 2013. Pump your brakes. And that was a pump your brakes directed at me. And so the argument here is that, because like Nikki is the wily veteran, she has so much more experience than Charlotte, who's the relative newcomer. Two things about that. Charlotte is the women's champion, right? Like, so if she's not ready because she's not good enough, maybe she shouldn't be the women's champion. And the other thing is too, like, you'd think being around longer means you're a better wrestler, but you look around at a lot of wrestlers who've been around a long time and they're not good.
yeah, well, Brie Bella is a good
Yeah,
example of
Brie
that.
Bella has also been wrestling since 2007 and is not as good as Nikki or Charlotte for that matter. Uh,
Yeah, and on the opposite thing, as you pointed out, Sasha Banks has only been wrestling since 2011, and she's better than both of them put together.
right. Yeah, absolutely. And so, but the most like ridiculous response I got was someone who said, and I think this person might be like a Dean Ambrose obsessive, so I want to be careful so I don't get stabbed. But this person wrote, they're both incredible. All women wrestlers are incredible. Don't make this a contest, please. The match wouldn't have been as good as it is if either one wasn't there. So there's a lot wrong with this statement. One thing is Don't make this match a contest. Don't make this wrestling match between two people to determine who's better a contest. That's what it is.
See, this was the comment, but like this was the first comment too on the thing. It
Yeah,
was like it was the
instantly.
first one that came up because when I saw the post, I like clicked on because there was like a lot of um interactions with the post, and I was like, I gotta look at this because why is this one so crazy right now? And then I looked at it, and there's that quote, and I thought like this has got to be a sarcastic post. I gotta go see what this person is about, and it was like 100% serious, and I'm like, this person is partially brain dead. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, not only is the whole like don't make this contest a contest stupid, but all women wrestlers are incredible. That just like chaps my ass because no, they're not all incredible. Eva Marie is not incredible.
no,
Brie Bella is not incredible. Tamina Snuka is not incredible. Like the idea that you can't say anything critical about the women wrestlers because they're like these delicate, fragile snowflakes who will crumble at your harsh touch is the most It's just as stupid as the people at Full Sail chanting women's wrestling.
yeah, wow. I mean, no, seriously, that was my reaction. I just thought like, well, are you serious? Like, can you not say that somebody is better than somebody else at something that's competitive? They're
Right.
Everybody is the same, Tom.
Yeah, you can't pick a favorite because everyone is equally good. Everyone is equally incredible.
Every
Becky Lynch and Brie Bella are absolutely on the same level. There's no difference between the two of them, except one of them is good at wrestling and the other one is not. Like, I mean, you just can't. That's the basis of being a wrestling fan. You pick favorites, and often you pick favorites because, in your judgment, they're better than other people.
yeah, I mean,
And there are some people who are so bad, almost everyone agrees that they're bad.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's not like you're gonna get someone viciously defending the great Khali as a great wrestler.
Right. Eric Watts, I don't even think Eric Watts is Bill Watts' favorite wrestler. Like, come on.
I don't think even Eric Watts would say he was a good wrestler.
The idea that you can't like make an objective decision or even a subjective decision about wrestling because that you're being too hard on the women is so insulting. I mean, that's exactly the kind of attitude you don't want to have. That's the reason people are turned off by women's wrestling because they think it's this like special awareness raising session instead of just a wrestling match.
Yeah,
You're only going to get people in the US to get on board with women's wrestling if they just have good wrestling matches.
yeah. I mean, that's exactly the reason that women's wrestling is so popular in Japan is because like they just treated it like normal wrestling matches. So like you'd go out there and you'd see like generally women beating the hell out of each other just like the men do, and
Yeah.
it was popular. That's kind of how they should be handling it, which
Yeah.
um, instead you have like the kind of pat ourselves on the back women's wrestling chanters and the
Right.
people who want to say all women wrestlers are incredible. Um,
Right. There's a reason that Ronda Rousey is one of the most popular woman athletes in the United States right now, and it's not because she's just as good as everyone else. Right.
yeah, I
It's,
mean it's exactly because she's not as good as everybody else. She's way better. I
yeah.
mean, it's because she just destroys everybody, and she's good at what she does. That's why people like her, and that's in general, if you are like one of these people who are supporting women's wrestling, you should support women's wrestling that's good. I mean, that sounds like a stupid thing to say, but it's apparently something that needs to be said
Yeah,
because
apparently we have to say it. It seems insane to even have this argument that like it's okay to say that one woman is better than another in wrestling. Like it just seems insane that that's a point of contention. But that's where we are.
yeah, that
That's what the Divas Revolution has given us, the sort of the sense that it's absolutely the worst thing in the world to say something critical about one woman
And
wrestler.
the thing with that is that like I know the kind of sentiment behind it. I think is this kind of thing like you can't say anything bad about them because they're women, and I think
Yep.
that it's more patronizing to women than it to treat them as like like they're ultra special for no reason. Like
Right.
they need to be treated better because they're women. That's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
it's the same kind of thing if you were like, oh, I'm not racist, but I think I have to treat all black people as special people who need a little special like help because they're black.
Right.
Like
It's
that's
patronizing.
racist. That's more racist than not than someone who is just like, no, everyone's just fine, whatever. Some people are better than others. And it's true for wrestling. Some people are better wrestlers than other wrestlers. It's just, it's not like um, anyone's gonna put Ultimo Dragon next to Hulk Hogan and be like same level of skill at wrestling.
Right. Yeah, it's patronizing. It's this weird neo-Victorian thing that goes under the guise of being progressive, in the sense that like that women are too fragile and delicate to be evaluated in the same terms that their male counterparts are.
It's like
That's absurd.
the soft sexism of low expectations.
There, there you go. Um, yeah. So that, I mean, I guess that's all there is to say about the pay-per-view. It was decent. It was all right. It wasn't terrible. Like nothing. Like there were horrible, horrible mistakes they could have made that they didn't make, and so these days that's success.
Yeah, there weren't any bad matches. There wasn't anything that was horrible. Like go
No.
I didn't look at it and think like, oh, well, this was really bad. And even though I there were matches I didn't really like the main event, but even then, I wouldn't say it was a horrible match. Like they didn't screw anything up. It was just not entertaining to me. Uh,
Yeah. I mean, I liked the main event more than I thought I would, just because the bar for me was so low on that match. I just anticipated it was going to be this disaster, kind of like the SummerSlam match had been, and it actually was sort of better than that match. But it was still, it's just impossible for me to suspend disbelief and think that the Undertaker is a serious threat to Brock Lesnar.
yeah, I mean he looks like somebody's kind of aged grandmother. Like I don't really. I have no, every time I look at him, I just think of that from the SummerSlam that tweet about grandma be pissed or whatever, and I still kind of giggle about it because like, man, it's so true. It's just and you posted a picture I think of this gray old Undertaker in a t-shirt.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
not
like he was
really.
like running like a 5K fun run for charity or something, and which is fine, good for him. But like he just, I mean, I think they do have a legitimate, not a problem, but like it's a concern that like really it's hard to believe that almost anyone is a match for Brock Lesnar. Um, but especially the Undertaker. Like you look at John Cena and you think like, oh, actually that guy could probably be a good match for Brock Lesnar. Like they're similar size, they're similar age. But the Undertaker is just so old and is not what he was in his prime. That the match always just comes across as like Lesnar, even though they're sort of like they're going in there and they're bleeding and they're slapping the piss out of each other. Like you have to think Lesnar is holding back so he doesn't kill this guy.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Like if they hadn't been booking the Big Show like a complete chump for 10 years or so, like the Big Show is like a legitimate person who you'd think like might be able to fight the Undertaker just because he's huge.
Right, or Mark Henry, same thing. But like they've just been booked as jokes for so long that
Yeah, there's no way to take them seriously even if like they try to build up those guys again for 1 month, even though they
yeah.
have been.
And they tried with the Big Show, right? And they but they knew what that match was, and so they had it on an MSG sort of special house show event with Lesnar. Um, so I kind of I wonder what's next for Lesnar. I don't really know, but it'll be interesting to see what they come up with, because clearly the Undertaker is going to be battling the forces of the Wyatt family.
Yeah. I'm interested in what's going to happen with that because, it's obviously going to be Undertaker and Kane. I wonder, like, I'm less interested in this match because I think it's going to suck. But I'm wondering if they're going to go back to the old school Survivor Series teams
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
because, like, you know, it, it's I liked the idea of the Survivor Series. Like, I watched the first Survivor Series. I remember watching it. But the idea of having like a 4-on-4 tag match with eliminations is cool because like, you have the chance that, you're going to have like 4 people against one person by people getting eliminated. And I think like, it adds a lot of kind of opportunities for suspense or like
Yeah,
people to have
I
crazy
agree.
comebacks or, stuff like that. It's interesting. And, they don't really do that anymore, even at
No, I'm a
Survivor
big fan of
Series.
the old. I'm a big fan of the old Survivor Series style. I wish because it made Survivor Series a special pay-per-view. Just
Yeah,
the same thing with the Rumble is always special because the way they do the Battle Royal. Um,
the thing with
and
it also was that like it gave them a lot of ideas for building up TV for like a month. You had all the people with forming their teams, like they had to go and get people to join.
Yep.
I mean, and then everybody was on a team. So like the entire Survivor Series was just team matches. That was the point of Survivor Series.
It was kind of fun because it was different. I'd like to see that come back too. Because otherwise pay-per-views are just sort of same thing. 13 times a year.
I
Um,
um I know people hate it, but I would like
I like it. Screw those people.
yeah, I would like to see it back. I'd like to see also World War III back, but I don't think they're going to do that.
I'd like to see Halloween Havoc be the October pay-per-view. To be honest with you,
I
something
agree. I think Halloween Havoc is
some scary wrestling match, like stipulation, like haunted castle match, just the stupidest stuff. It was fun. Um, well, anyway, speaking of stupid stuff, we should go into the news.
all right.
You found the story. There's a mysterious new promotion in the works, possibly according to the always reliable Jake Roberts.
Yeah, it's a weird story because I've only heard about it like a little bit, and it just comes from this like post from like a interview with Jake Roberts somewhere. And the thing with it is that like he's saying like, oh yeah, there's going to be a brand new company. It's going to hit in a big way, and he's like, it's not Global Force, it's not TNA, it's a brand new company. And he's like saying, oh yeah, it's going to be running out of Las Vegas, and there's like 70 to 80 guys going to be employed, and they're going to have benefits and a certain
Yeah, and they're
insurance.
going to be on TV and they're going to run shows 7 days a week. According to Jake Robert. Honestly, it sounds a little bit like a hobo describing the Big Rock Candy Mountain.
Yeah, it doesn't sound realistic at all, and it doesn't sound like something that's actually going to happen. I honestly don't like. Seriously, this is the first time I've heard about it, and the news story that is talking about it is speculating that it's something that Shane Douglas is starting, that he's been talking about starting for years or whatever.
Yeah, along with Tommy Dreamer and Terry Funk.
Yeah, Tommy Dreamer has his own promotion already, though.
Yeah.
And Terry Funk, well, okay, he's still wrestling. He's like 120.
I know. Yeah, I don't like. I mean, especially with the way that TNA and Global Force are struggling. Um, I don't like. Who would invest in this? You'd need a lot of money behind a promotion to be anything like what Jake Roberts is describing, and who would invest in that? I mean, the only thing I could think of that would make it more appealing in the Vegas setting is somehow gambling being involved. But since it's it's scripted, like I can't imagine that going over very well. Although I know people bet on wrestling now, but that's it's online and unregulated. Um, and also like Global Force has been doing all their TV taping in Las Vegas, even though they don't have a TV show. I'm sorry. I mean, they do have a TV show called Amped. It just doesn't exist anywhere.
Yeah, Global Force is weird to me because they don't have a they don't have a outlet for their TV show, but they have a TV show.
Right.
So, I wonder if they're just trying to get overseas TV deals before anything.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. They have a TV show like I Have a Reason to Live. Like it's talked about, but nobody knows, nobody can see it.
It's it's the kind of thing. It's there. It's a thing that
Yeah, it's there.
exists, and
But
possibly people in the UK might see it.
yeah, right. Yeah, right. People who are raised in a different environment might see it. Yeah, we got dark there. So I mean, I would hope so. I would love to see another wrestling promotion, obviously, but right now, in the U.S. anyway, we're sort of struggling to support the wrestling promotions that we have. And that brings me to the next news item, which is Global Force Wrestling.
All right.
In Las Vegas, Nevada. Wrapped up over the weekend their big TV tapings for Amped TV, where they crowned all their champions.
How do you feel
Uh,
about the Global Force champions?
so let's talk about
The list of
the
former
global
TNA champions.
um, the next gen championship. That's sort of like their X division cruiserweight division title. That was won by PJ Black, who was in WWE as Justin Roberts. He's good. That's fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think any of the people they gave championships to are bad. They're good wrestlers.
Yeah, Christina Von Eerie won their women's championship. I'm a huge Christina Von Eerie fan. That's exciting.
I've never seen her wrestle, but I know you're a huge fan.
I'm a huge fan. I've seen her wrestle a bunch of times, and she's great. So that's good news. And then their tag team match was the Bollywood Boys won, and their world title, or as they call it, the global title, was won by Nick Aldis, who beat Bobby Roode.
The former Magnus.
That's right, the former Magnus. So, decent. And then they went, like, I was reading the one of the reports from the show. They went into this Joey Ryan, I guess, was there for the TV taping, and they went into this angle about Brett Grandstaff, who I guess is a wrestler and is in a movie called The Masked Saint. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
Okay, so I had not heard of it either. It's coming out next year, and they were promoting The Masked Saint, and the person who was there said that Jeff Jarrett came down and cut a promo where he said that the movie had been released to rave reviews and great box office. It actually hasn't been released yet, which is classic Jeff Jarrett. And so here's the plot. The Masked Saint follows the journey of former professional wrestler Chris Samuels, who retires from the ring to settle down as a small-town pastor. When the pastor witnesses rampant problems in the community, he decides to moonlight as a masked vigilante fighting the injustice. While facing crises at home and at the church, the pastor must evade the police and somehow reconcile his secret violent identity with his calling as a pastor. And then it says it was inspired by true events.
Whoa, true events. Was
True
there
events.
was there a masked wrestler vigilante somewhere in the U.S. at some point?
Who was also like a Christian pastor.
Sounds legit. I don't know.
So, yeah, that could have happened. I'm sure wouldn't have heard about that. But so Roddy Piper actually has a bit part in the movie. This may be Roddy Piper's last film, which would be depressing. And Diane Carroll's also in it too. So they got some real actors to be in it. But it sounds like a serious bad version of Nacho Libre.
I have not heard of this, but yeah, it doesn't sound promising.
The Masked Saint. So I'm pretty excited about this. I'm going to see The Masked Saint when it comes out. Mark my words.
When is it coming out? That's the
next year sometime. 2016 is there's nothing more specific than that, unfortunately, on IMDb. Or if you believe Jeff Jarrett, it's already out and it's got rave reviews. It's #1 in America.
Huge box office.
Oh, here we go. January 8th, 2016 it comes out. So soon. We don't have to wait that long for The Masked Saint. I bet they're going to market it to Christian audiences.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. It'll be a Christian film.
Yeah. So I was trying to see if there were any other wrestlers. I didn't recognize anyone else. But apparently that it's somehow The Masked Saint is cross-promoting with Global Force, which really just has a tremendous instinct for great cross-promotions with their TNA work. So yeah, Masked Saint, look for that. And what else? Oh, I wanted to talk about this briefly. This just broke today, in fact. Hulk Hogan, his final WCW contract, 1998, somehow made it to the internet. And it's pretty interesting. It gives you a snapshot of how big wrestling was in 1998. Because the money involved is significant. Now, Hulk Hogan was the biggest name in the wrestling business at the time, and even that though, he got a $2 million signing bonus. Like on top of everything else in the contract, he got $2 million just for signing it, which is common from the world of professional sports. He also got 25% of ticket sales from Nitro and Thunder tapings whenever he was on one of the shows. 25% of the gross.
That's insane.
That's insane. And he got 15% of pay-per-views sales for pay-per-views he was on. 15%. That's a huge amount of money, especially because when you think of 1998, now that is when like the wheels start coming off for WCW. 1998 is like when things start to turn around and their winning streak. I mean, like in the beginning of the year, everything looked fine and stuff, but the creative decisions and financial decisions they're making in 98 set the stage for 99 and 2000, which were terrible, terrible years. So the money is the interesting part. They also gave him creative control, but we sort of knew that. I think that was always sort of long rumored, incredibly rumored in the internet world that Hogan had creative control in his matches, which is a mistake, I think, in any wrestling promotion. Unless it's the point of the wrestling promotion, like Beyond, where they let the wrestlers book their own matches.
Does
If
Beyond
you're
do
putting
that? I
together,
didn't know that.
yeah, Beyond does that. Like they pick the link, they pick the who's going to win and all that stuff. And I think the promoter has like some input, but he does not apparently book the actual shows.
Oh, wow.
But if you're putting together like a 3 weekly TV shows, right? Because they had Saturday night too. If you're putting together like national television that's watched by millions of people, you really can't have if you're putting together like a cop drama that everyone enjoys, one of your CSIs, for example, you can't like have like the characters decide if they die or not. Like you can't have the actors make those decisions. You kind of have to have someone whose job is just to be in charge of creative. That was a mistake, but I think a lot of people had creative control in their contracts at WCW, the bigger stars at the time. I don't think Hogan was alone.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, though, if you were in WCW, you'd probably want creative control because Jesus, I mean, so much bad creative in air quotes you can't see me doing control on WCW.
Yeah, that's a good point because like if you didn't have creative control, you could be one of the ding dongs. Like
Yeah, you don't know what's gonna happen.
You could have been Brad Armstrong, like a really, really good wrestler who they just came up with a series of terrible gimmicks for. Like, you're going to be Spider-Man. Yeah, God, if he had creative control, everything could have been so different. But yeah, a lot of money, and I bet if we saw more WCW contracts, we would we'd see some of that, more of that. I mean, I think at the time I remember reading that Nash was getting paid $30,000 a month just to sit home when he was hurt, which is not much incentive to get back on the road.
Yeah, I mean, if you were paying me $30,000 to stay home, hell yeah, I'd stay home.
Yeah, absolutely. The last news item we have is speaking of creative people, the Young Bucks. And by the time you hear this, they may have revealed what this is about. But the Young Bucks have been teasing on Twitter. In fact, just as we started recording, they added a further tease on Twitter that they have signed with a wrestling promotion. Now they're currently signed with New Japan, but they tweeted, "We signed with one of them." And then, or the first tweet they tweeted out it just said WWE, NXT, LU for Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, TNA, New Japan, and then they said we signed with one of them, and so that the speculation has been running wild, and they just tweeted out again soon. Presumably, they mean that soon we'll know who they signed with. There's been a lot of speculation that they're going to sign with Ring of Honor, and kind of because they're in New Japan, they've already been in a lot of Ring of Honor shows. Wrestling fans, trivia fans will remember they were in TNA at one point as Generation Next. So it's hard to imagine them going back to TNA, especially given TNA's current troubles. That would leave
Generation Next.
And I don't know that WWE/NXT is very likely for them. They've been clear in the past about their qualms regarding WWE NXT. So my guess, and who knows, and these guys are sort of masters at stuff like this on Twitter. They're very funny. My guess, though, would be it's either Lucha Underground or Ring of Honor. They've signed some kind of deal with.
Yeah, that's what I would guess too. I mean, it's the ones that make sense. Um, Ring of Honor makes sense, but I mean, it like really signing to Ring of Honor or New Japan. Like, I think either one, like you could wrestle on either show. They have a partnership,
Yeah,
so it's the kind of thing where like, if they signed with Ring of Honor, it would be kind of like, oh, nothing's really changed. You guys are gonna still go wrestle in New Japan? Yeah, we'll do
right.
that. Um, so that's like the only part that makes me a little like leaning towards something like Lucha Underground, if only because like it wouldn't be a big announcement to sign to Ring of Honor because it would just be like, oh, you guys are just doing the same stuff, just
Yeah,
from the opposite end.
yeah, I agree. And I honestly, I mean, who knows? But I would love to see them in Lucha Underground.
I don't I don't know what they do in Lucha Underground, but have good matches, I guess. But besides that,
They could bring a much needed comedic element to the pulp proceedings of Lucha Underground. I think they would be fantastic at that. Or like if they tried to act dramatically, like that could be even better. I mean, they're two of my favorite wrestlers in the world. They're so much fun to watch. And I would love to be able to watch them on TV, which I can't right now because I don't have cable, so I can't watch them on Destination America when they show up on Ring of Honor. Again, that's why I just think if you're going to tease some big announcement, it actually should be a big announcement. I mean, I kind of assumed they were semi Ring of Honor people anyway.
yeah, I mean, because they're on Ring of Honor all the time.
Yeah, or like announcing they've like oh, we signed a new contract with New Japan. Like, well, that wouldn't be that exciting. I mean, it would be good for them. I don't, they could just be, again, they're really good at yanking people's chains on Twitter. So this could be more Young Bucks shenanigans. Those Young Bucks and their shenanigans.
That's like all their matches are shenanigans too.
It's true. It's true. That's why their matches are fun to watch. If you like shenanigans, and I love shenanigans, the Young Bucks are the team for you. Um, I think that's it for news. I don't think we have a TNA Doomsday Clock addition or change this week.
Yeah, I don't think there was anything to add to about TNA this week. I didn't see any TNA news. I there were some pictures of the Great Khali or whatever, but we already talked about that.
Yeah, we did. TNA somehow managed to like not do anything catastrophic this week. Although Andrew Everett apparently hurt himself and it might be the ACL injury. I hope not. He's really exciting and he's a terrific wrestler to watch. So that would be bad, but it wouldn't be like changing the Doomsday Clock bad.
Yeah. So I guess that will end up the news. But I think that brings us on to the old PWI 500, which is
Yes.
pretty interesting. I think the PWI 500, it comes out once a year, right?
Yep.
And the recent 2015 issue is out. You can get it. I guess you can actually get a physical copy of it.
They still do publish a physical copy. That's true. I'm gonna try to.
And
I'm gonna try to go to like the one like dirtbag newsstand around here that I think might carry it.
but if you don't think you have a dirtbag newsstand near you, you can download it as a PDF. I think for like $3 or something. It's super cheap from the PWI website. So there's that. I think it's like $3 or $3.50 or something. It's pretty cheap. So yeah, let's look at the PWI 500 here. Um, have you checked it out? Have you looked at the
I
list?
have.
I mean, the list itself, when you look at it, you kind of think like, huh? For a lot of it, I always look at it and I think, what? But there's actually like a way that there's a metric they use to pick the people, and it like has to because there's people who are not on the list that you're just like, what? Why is there no Brock Lesnar on the list?
Right.
And but it's because like there's a metric they use that involves like a win loss, and then it's like how many matches you participated in and like who you beat. So like if you beat, if you're Kevin Owens and you beat John Cena, you're going up on the list because John Cena is ranked so high or whatever.
Right.
And then you have things like, you know, popularity and skill or whatever as a wrestler that all come together to make these metrics where you're just kind of like, oh, I guess it kind of makes sense that some of these people are high. And some of them I'm still like a little baffled by, but whatever. It's not my list.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like all lists of this nature, it's basically subjective, but they have some kind of vague criteria that they do try to stick to. It's pretty interesting. You can check out the whole list yourself online, but this is the top 10. Number 10, Kevin Owens. Number 9, Alberto El Patron. Now Alberto Del Rio again. Number 8, Alexander Rusev. And it took me a second to remember that Alexander Rusev was Rusev's first name. Number 7, Jay Briscoe. Number 6, Randy Orton. Number 5, Shinsuke Nakamura. They misspelled the site I'm reading misspelled Nakamura. I'm sure it's spelled correctly in the PWI. Number 4, Roman Reigns. Number 3, AJ Styles. Number 2, John Cena, and number 1, Seth Rollins. So I think, like, in terms of if you're going to pick like the 10 top wrestlers right now, that's not a bad group.
Yeah,
I know that
there's some on there that where like, it doesn't make sense anymore.
yeah,
Like Rusev doesn't make any sense at 8, but
no,
probably when they made the list, he was still in the middle of his like unbeaten streak or whatever, like
right.
it's that
I
kind
would
of
have
thing.
picked. I would put somebody from the next 10 in place of Rusev, like Jay Lethal or Tanahashi or somebody.
Yeah, I would have put Tanahashi higher actually than uh
Um,
than Rusev easily, but like I would have put Tanahashi at 10.
I'm pretty excited because I know there are going to be a lot of internet wrestling nerds who are furious at the suggestion that Roman Reigns is better than Shinsuke Nakamura. But again, as Joe explained, this isn't like a PWI 500. In theory, is not a wrestling of like who's best. It's more of like success, current standing in the world. Like it's not them sitting down who they think their 500 favorite wrestlers are.
Yeah, the thing with
Um,
it is like it also takes into account like international popularity and stuff like that. There's like a lot of stuff
yeah,
that goes into it, and they have like it's not like one dude making the list. So,
right.
um, but yeah, I understand a lot of people are not going to take that into account. They're just going to look at the list and they're going to be like, no way Roman Reigns is better than anybody on this list.
I know. Yeah, they're gonna be absolutely. And then because when you get down, and there's 500 wrestlers, which is a lot, and so like when you get down, you're still seeing people who are like really good and have like big followings and stuff. And so like people are gonna be flipping out the idea that like Roman Reigns is so much better than Matt Sydal, who's at like 114, for example.
Okay. It's funny that you bring up Matt Sydal because like I think of Matt Sydal as like I don't like Matt Sydal, but like I understand that he's a good wrestler. Like he does a lot of cool stuff. Like he's kind of a flippy guy, and I think like he's got also the up until recently I would have said he has like the personality of wet cardboard. Like he has nothing to him.
Right.
But recently he's been doing this thing where he's like Matt Sydal super hippie or whatever. He comes out and like gives the peace sign and yells peace and namaste and stuff. And this has been in the New Japan matches he's been had recently, and I think like I preferred wet cardboard Matt Sydal because now I active like before I just thought like yeah Matt Sydal's kind of bland but he does some cool flips and stuff so he's okay to watch. Now I think like I fucking hate Matt Sydal. I think like I want to throw him on a pile of wood and burn him. Like I have no like he's gonna be screaming Namaste at the beginning of his matches. Uh, he's a heel. I want to throw
Yeah,
stuff
no,
at
yeah,
him.
absolutely. Yeah, regardless of how they're trying to book him, he's a heel.
Yeah, I just want to throw rotten fruit at him. I have no. There's like I don't care how good his match is gonna be. Now I actively dislike Matt Sydal.
Yeah. So I mean, like, other than Rusev, is there anybody in that top 10 that you have a problem with being there?
Not really. I would like I think like a lot of people, I probably wouldn't put Roman Reigns at 4, but I mean I understand why he's there if they're
Yeah, me too.
counting win-loss record because he was like this is like when they're doing this list, it's like in the midst of where they're trying to push him to be that match with Brock Lesnar at the pay-per-view where he was just
Yep.
winning all the time. And then he was like headlining the pay-per-view. That's it's got to be points added to his list there. Like you're headlining WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar, probably going to be ranked pretty high.
Yeah, I agree. And like I think I mean that list that 10 again except for Rusev and how high Reigns is, it makes sense to me. I would have put maybe Tanahashi in the top 10 as we said, but
I probably
you
would have
know,
moved Randy Orton down too, only because like not that he's like bad or anything. It's just that like he I mean hasn't really been doing anything.
no, he's I mean, yeah, he hasn't been losing, but he hasn't really been doing anything significant. Um
There's a lot of I mean there's a lot of people on the list I think that could have been lower that it just because they haven't been wrestling. Like Daniel Bryan, he's like
Daniel Bryan.
14. Like he should be like way lower just because like he hasn't wrestled in like half a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean and it's kind of interesting too, like a guy like Mil Muertes, who only exists in the context of the TV show Lucha Underground. I mean, it's Messias from AAA. That's who plays that character. Same thing with, and they put like for Ricochet, they put Prince Puma and then like Ricochet in parentheses. It's like, well, which one is it? Because that they sort of have like different careers.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting though. Well, I mean it's the same person. So I
Yeah, but
guess
it's like
like
it's not like Prince Puma. He doesn't work as Prince Puma anywhere but Lucha Underground.
yeah.
So it's sort of a weird. It's a wrestler playing a wrestler. I mean, I mean, I don't like have a huge beef with how they did it, but it is sort of it's worth noting that it's strange.
So Tom, what is your gut reaction to Dolph Ziggler being ranked higher than Ricochet?
Oh my God, and like just as I was saying, like people like don't get mad because that's not really like I was looking at things and I'm thinking to myself, Mojo Rawley is not better than Biff Busick.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even if you're like going into it with like the idea that like okay, it's based on a metric that I don't really know. It's explained in the magazine, and they all the wrestlers in the magazine have like a little bio and stuff too. So if you're just looking at it online, it's usually just a list. But if you actually buy the magazine, there's a little bios and what people are doing and stuff, and you're just like, but at the same time, you're going through it and you're like, I can't believe Bobby Lashley is ranked so high.
I know. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing too is it's amazing when you like go down like to like the like in the 400s. It's amazing first of all how many people I recognize, and then like how more outraged I am. I'm like, look, I know who Caleb Conley is, I know who Grado is, I know who Greg Excellent is. There's no way those three guys are ranked below someone called Napalm Bomb. Give me a break.
Yeah. Like
Um,
it's really I like the PWI 500 for these very reasons because like it always drives people insane, but
yeah,
also because you'll go through and you'll just be like I don't know how this works, but Chavo Guerrero is 318 and you're like
yeah, right, yeah, yeah.
but then you're like oh well Bull Dempsey is 263 and then like you're scrolling up and you're just like Fandango is 183. Um,
I
okay.
know. Also, I want to point out we talked about Imperial Wrestling Entertainment, our favorite like sub indie, and creature feature John Campbell is number 479 with a bullet.
Whoa. Is
Yeah,
he?
yeah. I was looking at the bottom of the list, hoping I would see someone from IWE, and there he is, John Campbell, which is the weird way they pronounce it in their promotion for some reason. His name's Campbell. Uh, John Campbell, 479.
All right. Cheeseburger's ranked lower than John Campbell.
I know. Bullshit. Cheeseburger entertains me for God's. Cheeseburger's in Ring of Honor. You can't give me that. You can't tell me that he's lower than John Campbell.
Wow. Wow, that's a cheeseburger way at the bottom there.
Yeah, and some of these guys, like when you see that they're way down, you're like, why is Chris Dickinson all the way down here? Like he's really good. But yeah, again, it's the kind of thing that's really fun to go through and complain bitterly about things like Bobby Lashley being really highly ranked.
You're just like, like why aren't my favorite wrestlers ranked higher?
I know.
And I'm like flipping through this, and I'm like, Kaz Hayashi is on the list at 289, by the way.
Is he even still wrestle?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe he's in All Japan.
It's funny too. The link you found that you sent, like just looking at the comments, people are so mad at the list.
Oh yeah, no, like, and there's all these reactions to it. The initial reactions. This is the list I sent is actually a corrected list
Yeah.
because initially there were things where Darren Young and Eric Young were mixed. And like there was like all these like screeds about why is Darren Young ranked at like 300 or something and his partner is ranked at like 180 or something, and then like it's the kind of thing where like people were freaking out, and then like Zack Ryder and Adam Ryder, there's like two guys that were swapped, so like Zack Ryder was like at like 400 something, and like there was all these like crazy angry comments about that, like people were freaking out. um so there's a lot of stuff like that where it's just like insanity for some people. And then, but like again, going through the list, you it's hard to like keep in mind that there's a metric for it because like you're going through it and you're just like right back at 29. Screw that.
Yeah. Oh, I know. God, Ryback. Um, yeah, it's a lot of fun. This is what rankings do. They're fun. Um, uh, the other thing I wanted to talk about, I think this will probably be an abbreviated show. I'm having furnace problems. That's not what I want to talk about. We're close to Halloween, and we mentioned Halloween Havoc. And on Closet of Anxiety, I've been posting pictures of like horror type gimmicks all week for Halloween. So I wanted to ask you if you have any favorite horror angles or characters from wrestling that stand out for you in particular.
you, you know it's I don't know if you consider it. I mean, I guess it's a horror gimmick because it's horror, somewhat horror related. But the Kevin Sullivan thing is never going to get old to me.
Yeah.
The the Kevin Sullivan Devil Worshipper gimmick, which we've talked about a bunch of times on this show already, but like it's so good. It's easily the best kind of horror related gimmick. I guess like um, probably the most popular horror related gimmick would be the Undertaker.
That's a good point. He really is a horror related gimmick when you think about it.
But I don't. I'm not like I've never been really like an Undertaker fan. He's never been a wrestler that I particularly enjoyed or cared about, even like when I was a kid. So like I have no nostalgia for the Undertaker, and like I always just think of him as the American badass, and I hate that
Yeah.
so much. Like it's just like Kid Rock and Undertaker, like two tastes that go awful together or separate.
And
Uh,
I never understood how he was able to sort of like transition because like remember right before American Badass, he was at his like most ridiculous and like hammer horror.
yeah,
It was like it was the Ministry of Darkness
that
period.
was when he was shooting lightning out of his hands. That's
Yeah, and like crucifying Steve Austin and stuff, and just like, it's crazy. And then he just comes back as like a redneck, like essentially as Steve Austin, but like a quieter Steve Austin because he couldn't talk as well.
yeah, with a
But he
motorcycle though.
still had all that like dead man stuff. That drove me crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So I've never. I mean, but the Undertaker, I guess, not really so much anymore. But I guess he's kind of and Kane by association are kind of horror gimmicks. Um,
Yeah, and Kane, the wrestler, the guy Glenn, has been in horror movies. He's been in those slasher movies where he plays Jacob Goodnight. I can't think of the names right now,
yeah, I can't remember either.
but yeah, he's actually been in horror movies. And essentially, he plays Kane as if Kane really killed people. I guess. Um, See No Evil. That's the name of those
That's
movies.
it. Yeah. What
See
what
No
other
Evil.
horror thing? I mean, I guess like basically anybody who was in the Dungeon of Doom is a horror gimmick.
That's right.
The Yeti.
The Yeti. Oh my God. I um I like this is one of my favorite horror gimmicks because it's so cheesy, but it actually worked. It shouldn't have worked. Uh, Leatherface,
Oh yeah,
right?
Leatherface.
So this was it was Corporal Kirshner actually in the WWF. He was like this. His gimmick was that he was this military guy, and he had a feud with Nikolai Volkov, and he was, American guy, blah blah blah. So he was Corporal Kirshner. Then he left the WWF, and he went to Japan, and he as Leatherface, the character from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he wrestled in Wing, and like wrestling basically like hardcore matches, and he it got really popular in Japan, and the guy who had the gimmick actually went to jail for a fight with a fan, and the Leatherface gimmick went to someone else in Wing. And then when Corporal Kirshner got out of jail, they had like a battle of the Leatherface matches, a Leatherface, and then they teamed together. They were like a team of like people just loved it.
Yeah, they were
Um,
in FMW also.
yeah, that's right. They were in FMW, and there had been this tradition in Memphis of like horror themed wrestlers. They were based on like characters from famous horror movies, but they would change them just slightly in hopes of avoiding being sued. So they had Nightmare Freddy was a wrestler, and you can imagine he was quite like Freddy Krueger, and Jason the Terrible. So it was like a big guy with a hockey mask who came out,
Yeah, there was a
and
there was a horror movie themed stable, I think, in FMW for a while that involved a Freddy and a Jason and a Leatherface.
there we go. So yeah, and even earlier in Memphis, back in the '60s, they had like wrestling mummies and wrestling werewolves, and like anything goes in Memphis, or used to, and so those were fun. But I just like Leatherface because it worked, and he did it for years. It wasn't like most of those gimmicks were like one off, or they'd come out for like a Halloween match or something, like the Christmas Creature, uh, bringing it back to Kane. But like the Leatherface character like lasted a long time, which is hilarious because he probably should have been sued.
Yeah, you'd assume, but I think probably during that time there weren't any Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies being made, but they did do that remake, so who
They
knows?
did. Um, but horror is a tough thing to get right, I think, in wrestling as a gimmick. And you can see this in everything from the Boogeyman, who I think is genuinely creepy but didn't really work as a wrestler for a lot of reasons, to the White Castle of Fear, which we've talked about.
Oh, the White Castle of Fear. I think
It
you you talked about the White Castle of Fear so much that people were demanding that you stop talking about the White Castle of Fear.
I actually got a complaint because I kept referring everything would like eventually go back to the White Castle of Fear, and finally I got like an anonymous thing on my blog saying please stop talking about the White Castle of Fear. Um, but I think it's hard to get the tone right because wrestling is exciting and it can be funny and it can be like inspiring, but like the scary stuff usually comes from things people do, like Angelico jumping off a 30-foot ledge or something. To get people sort of in a horror mood with wrestlers, I think is tough. I mean, like, because like the wrestlers who've actually legitimately scared me don't have horror gimmicks. It's like guys like Nick Gage or New Jack who just seem like legitimately kind of crazy guys.
Yeah, like you they might actually hurt you.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like that to me is like Abdul the Butcher is delightful to me. Although he's turned out to be pretty scary in some ways too. But like Bruiser Brody's terrifying. If you look at like footage of him in Japan, like in his glory days, he's a terrifying. Like he'll run into the audience and like swing a chain over his head, and people are just like running for cover. That's 10 times scarier to me than like some guy pretending to be a wizard, undead mortician or whatever the Undertaker's thing was.
Um, I in all honesty, I hope they bring back the Undertaker shooting lightning.
It would be better than what they have now. I agree. I agree.
He'll be
Uh,
he'll be the new leader of the Wyatt family.
that could work. It turns out he's Sister Abigail all along.
He's Grandpa Wyatt all along.
He's because I think one of the reasons that Kevin Sullivan Satanism gimmick worked so well is because there was always this air of sort of realism to it because they didn't have like a big budget the way that the WWF had for the Undertaker. So like there was always this air, not that these guys like actually had like magical powers, but that they were just like these seedy scumbags with like painted faces and like upside down crosses, like in an apartment in Florida somewhere. It was so plausible. That's what to me made it so good. That even though it was kind of corny, like all the sort of the realism that they had to have because it didn't have any money, made it like kind of edgy and gritty and gross and just the best possible way.
And I think it also helps that like the area of the country it's in is like a kind of fundamentalist area, like
Oh
the
yeah.
south of the United States, like the people who actually, and it doesn't, it also doesn't hurt that it was in the 80s where there was the whole satanic panic thing going on.
Yeah, it was the perfect time for it. There had
Um,
been satanic gimmicks before that. They just never caught on because people didn't care.
yeah, but like you do that in the south in the 80s where people were honestly believing there were satanic cults running things. You've uh,
Yeah,
you've hit a gold mine.
it was great. I don't think we'll ever see that matched again.
Yeah, I think it'll be hard to beat that in terms of like a horror type gimmick.
Yeah, just in terms of like right place, right time, they got it. So, and Kevin Sullivan just like was so committed to it that helped too.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kevin Sullivan is just pretty kind of underrated, I think.
I agree. I agree. A lot of people badmouth Kevin Sullivan, but I'm always entertained by him, which is not something I can say about a lot of wrestlers who are probably more critically acclaimed.
Yeah, it's true. I think Kevin Sullivan is like I don't think he's a bad wrestler. I've seen a lot of matches with Kevin Sullivan that I really like. Um, I've seen I think like his gimmicks were good. I mean, even the goofy ones, even the Dungeon of Doom is like not like I don't dislike the Dungeon of Doom. I mean it's goofy and bad, but it's fun.
Yeah, yeah. The Dungeon of Doom is. I mean, there's some classic moments. Uh, Not classic in the WrestleMania 3 sense, but classic in the Yeti sense, where you just like can't believe they went through with it.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like it's not that it's good per se, it's that it's memorable.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways that's important.
Oh, definitely.
You can't like I mean there's lots of things that happened in WCW, lots of great matches that happened, but like everybody remembers the Yeti, and
That's
that's
true, and everyone remembers.
everyone remembers the Dungeon of
There's
Doom.
no Hulkamaniacs here.
Yeah, everyone remembers that because it's so bad that it's like campy and rememberable. And I think like that it's something. I mean,
It,
it's better than just being forgotten. I mean,
it also, I
like
I think it helped a lot that Kevin Sullivan like would say these like crazy satanic things in like the thickest Boston accent, which always made it so hard to believe.
yeah. Um, is that what?
But yeah, you're right. In the entertainment industry, like you want to be remembered. In wrestling too, it's the kind of like wrestling is sort of different in that if people boo you, that's good, right? As long as they just respond to you, that's all you care about.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it's like a problem child. Like they want that attention. They don't care if it's good or bad.
Yeah, and I kind of that's why I'm skeptical about the existence of X-Pac heat. Like the idea that there can be bad heat. I don't really think there is. I think as long as people are reacting, the company thinks it's fine. I definitely think people wanted X-Pac to go away,
Oh yeah, I
but
wouldn't.
the way to the way to get that is not to boo because people are going to be like, "Great, he's over as a heel."
Yeah, people want to see X Pac get beat up.
Let's do it. Um,
And I never disliked X Pac really.
no, I always liked. He's a good wrestler, and he especially in Degeneration X, he did fine with what he had to do.
Even when he was the 1-2-3 kid.
Even when he was the 1-2-3 kid, that's right, and was in the first ever Crybaby match against Razor Ramon.
Crybaby match.
Crybaby match. Um, so what's coming up in the wrestling horizon?
Anything? The next pay-per-view is
Survivor
Survivor
Series,
Series, right?
close to Thanksgiving, end of the month.
Is it close to Thanksgiving or is it on Thanksgiving? Because I remember the initial one, like the big draw of it was that it was on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think now it's a Sunday after Thanksgiving. I could
Yeah,
be
it's
wrong. Evolve is going to be running a show in Ybor City, Florida, November 7th, I think. November 6th, I'm sorry. Evolve 51, Friday, November 6th, from Ybor City, Florida. The main event is Timothy Thatcher against Johnny Gargano. Also on the card, Drew Galloway versus Caleb Connolly. Drew Gulak versus Matt Riddle. They're still having their relationship with Matt Riddle, who is apparently like the WWE is vaguely interested in him. Um, We have T.J. Perkins versus Anthony Nese, Andrew Everett versus Tracy Williams, although Andrew Everett is hurt, so who knows what the story is there. I'll be interested to see because they're in Florida on November 6th, pretty close to a lot of WWE stuff, including NXT. I'll be interested to see if there's any further demonstration of the budding relationship between Evolve and WWE.
That'll be interesting. There'll probably be more stories about that in the works. You have any upcoming shows you're going to?
Yes, I'm going to go to. Mark and I are going to see wrestling on Sunday, November 1st in Providence. It's not Beyond Wrestling this time, though. It is. It's a different federation. It's the Extreme Wrestling Alliance. Extreme with an X. It's the only way to spell the word extreme.
You're not selling me on this.
All right. So Extreme Wrestling Alliance, but listen to this card. This is insane. The main event is AJ Styles versus JT Dunn. That's going to be good.
That's going to be good.
Donovan Dijak versus Paul London. Triple threat match: ACH versus AR Fox versus David Starr.
Jeez, this doesn't
Delirious.
This doesn't sound like something I'd expect to come from a federation with extreme with an X in its name.
I know, right?
I would expect it like Balls Mahoney versus Axel Rotten with.
Yeah, exactly. The Kingdom is going to be there against Brian Fury, Julian Starr, and Kimberly. Killshot and Son of Havoc versus Team Tremendous. Like, this is a stacked card. There's a lot. I'm really excited about this XWA thing coming up.
Sounds good. I mean, sounds way better than I expected.
I know, yeah, because when you hear XWA and you think, oh, I bet that's going to be awesome.
I saw that NECW is having like a women's only show or something in Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. I'm going to see also in November. We're going to see Lucky Pro Wrestling is doing a all intergender card in Massachusetts.
Oh, controversy.
I know, right? Controversy, stirring that controversy. But some of the wrestlers there include Tessa Blanchard, who's really good, and Jessica Havoc, who's also very good. So I'm pretty excited for that. Oh, and I should say also this week, if you're into Lucha Libre, and who isn't, Viva La Lucha, which is the promotion associated with the World Wrestling Network, has events on Thursday the 29th and also on Friday the 30th that you can watch on iPayPerView. And there's lots of exciting Lucha Libre action. And I might actually watch the Friday show. It's got Silver King and Ray Horace, Damien 666 and Bestia 666.
Wow.
Hijo de la Parca, Ray Bucanero. Four corner match: Ivelisse versus Renata Cavalera versus Jessica Havoc versus Andrea. Willie Mack. This is a pretty good show.
It sounds like half of Lucha Underground and then half of like old dudes who used to be in WCW.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all right, I might get that. Yeah, who knows? Anyway, so those are coming up. Those should be fun. Definitely watch the Lucha events. But I think that's it for big events. I think TNA is basically done for the rest of the year, right?
Do they have shows? I mean, are they doing shows in India this year, or is that next year?
Next year, the shows in London and India are next year.
Oh wow! I guess they're done for the year. I mean,
I think they have TV, right? They're still on TV through February.
Yeah, they must have something going on, but yeah, I guess there's no shows. They did cancel those Halloween shows.
My God. Yeah, it's true. TNA. Oh, and Ring of Honor, I think their next pay-per-view is Final Battle 15, which is in December.
Yeah, I think there's an upcoming New Japan pay-per-view, but I don't remember what it is. I haven't been paying attention to the pay-per-view names because they always do a show that like they do the pay-per-view and then they do like a kind of small show beforehand that's like road to whatever the name of the pay-per-view is, and I always forget it because like there's so many of them.
Yep.
That's a thing.
Yeah, so I guess we'll be back next week. If you like this, you can all the links and things to find us elsewhere online are below on the YouTube video. and we do interact with people quite frequently. In fact, if you say dumb things on the Twitter or on the blog, I'll like break out into a special post making fun of you,
Yeah,
like that person who said all women's wrestlers are incredible.
yeah, but that was way beyond justifiable.
That was totally deserved. Yes, and if you say nice things, I'll say nice things too. Like I know this game works both ways.
Yeah, but man, seriously, don't post all women's wrestlers are incredible or wrestling is not a competition or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Don't make wrestling a competition.
Don't make a competition between two people a competition.
All right. I think that's it for us. Thanks for listening, everyone.
All right, we will talk to you guys or talk at you guys next week.